This is the Hall Street Index. I'm D Hall, an accredited financial counselor. And today I'm here to tell you that you should spend your money. Spend it, spend it, spend plenty, right? But as I say that, I want to talk about intentionality, bringing intentionality to your spending. Because the idea I really want to communicate is when you're really clear on what you value, you can lean more into the things that you really deeply enjoy, the things that you love, versus just the things that you kind of like. You can cut out the things that you kind of like and find that you might even have more resources, energy, money for the things that you really love. So let's step outside of money. I'll use a quick example. Let's say you have some friends that you really enjoy being out with. Y'all make plans together. Y'all make plans to go out, execute on them, and it's a great time. All right. Then you have another group of people, more so acquaintances, and let's say the group of people, they cancel up plans last minute, and you're like, oh, thank you, Lord. You kind of enjoy hanging out with that other group of people, but not as much, right? And so let's say they didn't cancel plans and you still went out. Now that's your time, your energy, money for something that you just kind of liked versus the things that you really love, right? So when we think about our spending, very much similar. They're the things that you really love, the foods that you really love to eat, the items, products that you really love to purchase, or the experiences that you really love to have. And then there are the things that, yeah, you kind of like it, you kind of enjoy it. But those things are just kind of eating up the resources, creating less room for the things that you really like. And now it feels like, oh man, there's never enough money. All right, so, you know, let's take this to another level and let's talk about how you identify, the way you identify with money, your relationship to money, right? So as we talk about identity, there we have our personality, our character traits, but then there are those parts of us that we're not so excited to really share about. So for instance, you know, a part of yourself might be a people pleaser, always telling people yes. Oh, yeah. Now you're bleeding yourself of time, energy, and then your money gets involved, and now you're bleeding your accounts of it. You have issues establishing boundaries, right? You might say, oh, I'm just a giver. I love to give. That's beautiful. And you're broke, right? You can still give without sacrificing yourself. There's established boundaries. No one's telling you to stop giving, right? But establishing those boundaries are going to be key. And because maybe you lack that, you have to look at the shadows of your character, the parts of your character that have those problems, because without that awareness, that lack of boundaries, you're just going to be bleeding out financially, emotionally, psychologically, energetically. I mean, list goes on. All right, that's just one example, but on the other extreme, let's just say you're so selfish, you just take. Now your network is dwindling because you're really not adding value to other people's lives. You're just taking. As your network dwindles, your opportunities dwindle. And now, you know, when the opportunities dwindle, then your access to money might even dwindle along with that, right? Your access to better opportunities, better jobs, better clients, better whatever, that can start to dry up too. So, you know, the way you identify with money, or the way you identify, period, having that awareness and to be able to look at the parts of yourself that you're not so excited about, but to be aware about, you have a bit more control over that because that absolutely impacts your accounts, right? So I'm just talking about the things that you could control. Of course, there are macroeconomic elements and systems and policies in place that are impacting your money too. Best believe that. I'm just talking about the things that you can control. You know, I work with clients and I see them, you know, man, I just like having a good time. And it's like, ain't nothing wrong with that. But you having such of a good time, you trying to take care of like 3 households, you paying child support over here. It's just, hey, Have a good time in a different way, right? And I'm not bringing this up to shame anybody. I'm bringing this up to say that it doesn't have to be like that. There are things that you could control, that you could work on, if not changing, just being aware of, so you can have more control over it. And all of this can relate to your spending. It absolutely relates to your spending. So the other thing I see people really talk about is, oh, well, I had enough to pay our bills. You pay your bills, congratulations, but now it feels like you got a check to check situation going on. Because there are those parts of you that after the bills are paid, you're being responsible. Now you're just kind of like floundering around with your spending. And at the end of the month, you're like, where'd the money go? It's like, nah, like you need to bring some awareness to it. So when I create budgets with clients and we take a look at, you know, after the bills are paid, where's the money going? A lot of them are surprised at how much they're eating out and how much they're partaking in activities that they don't even really care about. They just want something to do. And then for the things that they really value, they feel like they don't have enough time, energy, money to really attend to those things. And that's not always the case. And some intentionality could go a long way for you to really lean into the things that you love versus the things that you just kind of like. Now, of course, I'm talking about spending money, but we want to make sure we're being fiscally responsible. And there are some rules of thumb that we kind of want to stick to. One of them being having 15% of your gross income. So your income, gross income, not your net income. Gross is before taxes and deduction. Having 15% go towards saving and investing. And when we say saving, we're talking about an emergency fund. An emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of all your living expenses, okay? So I'm talking about your rent or your mortgage, utilities, your groceries, insurances, all the things it takes, you know, for you to live on a month-to-month basis, having the cash equivalent to that in a savings account. After you have the emergency fund established, then you can lean into investing even more, or maybe you could put more money towards paying off debts if you have any. The reason I start with investing instead of debt repayments, and you can do both, but the reason I really lean into the investing is because if you don't have any savings and an emergency pops up, then where are you going to get the money from? You're probably going to borrow it, money. And by borrowing money, you're going to increase your debt load, right? So by having an emergency fund, that is the cash buffer between you and the emergency, and where you're not having to be in this cycle of I'm paying off debt, but I'm borrowing more money. I'm paying off debt and I'm borrowing more money. You get out of that cycle. Focus on having that cash reserve, and then you can lean even more into paying off the debt. And having a little bit of money go towards investments goes a long way, because as most people in the money management space know, time in the market always beats timing the market. So even if you could just put a little bit of money in there and just let that compound over time, at least you start to establish the habit of being intentional about where your money should go. And what you have left over, you might be surprised. You might be surprised that you could lean a lot more into the things that you love and just cut out the things that you kind of like while still being able to attain your financial goals. My name is D. Hall. This is the Hall Street Index. If you found this valuable, please like, subscribe. These things really help the channel grow, and I'll see you next time.